How's it going, doggy people? I hope you all are doing well. Today I've been requested to check out a gentleman by the name of Andy Kruger. I've never heard of him before until today. He's a dog trainer, and I've done this video a couple of times, and I just went on, my brain just exploded because of, I'm going to give you the shortened version of a crazy analogy that he comes up with, that includes traffic lights, green lights, red lights, and dogs, and getting paid for that. But, first, we're going to be talking about his title, The Problem, which is really a problem that he individually sees, not that there actually is a problem. I hate when these people state things like facts. The problem with purely positive dog training. And anybody who actually is worth their weight and actually understands what positive reinforcement is, and is a force-free trainer, we don't call ourselves purely positive. That's a derogatory term. I'm calling it a derogatory term. That balanced and compulsion and punishment-based trainers will say, it's like calling someone a tree hugger, kind of thing. That, because you don't use corrections, then your dog is going to be throwing a fit. If you had a child, your child would be throwing a fit and throwing things off the shelves in the grocery store. And actually, that would not happen because I would prepare my child to be able to be in that public setting. I don't have any children. Don't have to have children to know how to, help them and kind of raise them. I mean, that's a whole other can of worms that I'm not going to get into. But we're going to go over this Fair Use Act, criticism, education, all that jazz. So I'm going to kind of fast forward here to the point where I got to before my brain just exploded. He's talking about a traffic light that if you drive, there's laws that enforce you, obviously. If you choose to drive, you have laws that enforce the green and the red light. So if you run a red light, it's enforceable by law, blah, blah, blah. And he said, what if you get rid of that and every time you stop at a red light, you get $100? Terrific. But nothing stops you from stopping at the red light. Nothing happens. Okay? Now he's talking about, you have a dog that's at a loose leash heel, which I hate. I'm so tired of people who are so obsessed and control freaks about having their dog perfectly by their side 24/7 anytime they walk. But he talks about, loose leash heel. Your dog is going for half a mile. You're giving them treats every couple of feet, every couple seconds. Bam, they get a treat. Then they see another dog. They want to play with that dog. And he anthropomorphizes everything, acting like the dog is going to have some super logical thought process of, I just got a lot of treats, but I really want to go play with that friend. And I remember that, I'm full. The treats aren't really doing it for me anymore. And again, I'm just kind of shortening down, condensing whatever ludicrous example he's come up with. And he says that your dog is so full of treats that they think, well, let's see what he says.
To miss one or two. But now your dog sees another dog across the street.
Okay.
Let's say your dog knows that dog and your dog has played with that dog and your dog sees the dog.
And all of this is, let's say, this is all just anecdotal storytelling.
And thinks, oh man, I really want to get to that dog and play.
Yeah.
Coming into contact with that dog is way more valuable to me at this moment than getting a treat from you. And in fact...
Now that could be very true. I don't think they have that kind of logical thought where they would sit there, this would happen in like a microsecond, where they would see the dog and just instantly, boom, they associate this dog as fun. And then they may take a couple seconds because, dogs can think about it. They look at this dog and then they remember, oh, my person has something good. And if you have something like that's better than playing with the dog, depending on the threshold, so say you're here, there's a 2-lane street, and the other dog is here. That might be enough of a threshold to where your dog is below threshold and your reinforcement is higher. If you're over here and the dog is here, your reinforcement may not be enough. So if that happens, there's no big deal. You don't need to correct the dog. You just need to increase distance and reinforce that. And over time, you can work to being close and they can still ignore the other dog. But either way, punishment is not necessary. Punishment works. I will never say it doesn't. Positive reinforcement, force-free people do not ever claim that it doesn't work. What we claim is that it's not necessary. Unlike stopping at a red light, because you have to, because you could kill people, you could kill yourself. That's why it's a law. They have the whole traffic light system. That's entirely different. It's a human concept versus a dog seeing a friendly dog, their friend, a nice dog, a new dog, whatever, a girl in heat, whatever. This dog just thinks of it as, oh, I like this, I want to do this. Or, I don't like that, I don't want to do that. Or, I like this, but this over here right next to me is more rewarding.
I've already had a ton of treats already.
And that can happen.
So if I choose to blow you off
dogs don't think
on
that
this
way.
command and run...
Dogs don't think, I'm going to choose to blow you off. They think in the here and now. They don't think about logically, unless it was traumatic. And usually, I mean, humans will think that way too. It's the lizard brain in us. It's the survival instincts. You remember things that are traumatic to you because it keeps you alive.
Towards the dog, the only penalty I'll suffer is that I won't get a treat.
Dogs don't think that way.
That's fine. I can miss a treat. And you know what? After I do what I want, I'm going to walk nicely all the way home and get a whole bunch of treats back that way.
And again, dogs do not think logically like that. You are an absolute moron if you think that dogs think that way, and you know they don't think that way, and you're trying to fearmonger people and just confuse them with these idiotic concepts that are human concepts. Dogs do not think that way.
So, I'm good for now on the treat. I'm just going to go over to the dog.
Now that can't happen where it doesn't matter if the dog is full or not, or they want to play or whatever. It's a human problem. The human put the dog in that situation. The human should be at fault. The human should be held accountable, not the dog. You fed your dog too many treats. You put him you kept him out too long. You whatever. Even if your dog is full and treats are no longer working, you can still find a way to reinforce your dog without allowing them to practice behavior you do not want them to practice. That's what actually requires skill. Is that you can use food, you can fade away from food, and you can still reinforce your dog without ever having to put hands on them or pop them with a leash or use metal or electric collars around them. That's why Cesar Millan and Upstate Canine Guy, I don't ever know his name, and all these other people in America can't go over to train in Germany or France now or Sweden or all these other places because they require tools and not skill. They're skilled in their tools, maybe, but they don't have any other skills aside from those tools. Those tools control them as much as they control the dog. But people who can get a dog to work completely off leash without ever putting hands on the dog, with treats or with toys or whatever, what's wrong with this dog finding enjoyment in doing human concepts? Dogs don't care to walk by our side. It's a controlling human ego thing to have them walk by our side and to sit when we tell them and wait, 30 seconds politely while they're drooling while we get their food ready for them. Or have them down or have them shake or show their belly or shave them and make them look all cute and put a bow in their hair. They don't care about that. But they tolerate it. They tolerate so much. Way more than I would if I were turned into a dog at this moment.
At some point, every dog will make a decision like that.
Sure.
Just like people, every person at some point.
But at the same time, dogs are not people. They do not think the same as people. Dogs they are sentient beings. They have emotions. They have emotional states and needs. And say they can feel jealousy, but they cannot feel guilt. So just like a child at a certain stage, they reach a number of emotions for their age, like jealousy. Say Josie is, 2 or 3 years old. She sees Timmy over here has a lollipop. She wants the lollipop, so she goes and pushes Timmy over. He starts crying, and she says, "Hey, lollipop," and she gets it. She can feel that jealousy, but she doesn't necessarily, I don't know if they feel guilt at the age of 3 or later on. I imagine it's later on. But say at the age of 3, she pushes down her own brother, Timmy, and takes his lollipop and says, "Hey, I got it." She was jealous. Does she feel guilty for him crying or hurting him? Probably not. Probably not until another, I don't know, until she's 5 or 6 or 7. I'm not sure. I don't study the emotional state changes, in children as they get older. So I don't know at what age they feel guilt, but I imagine that they feel jealousy before guilt. They feel that more primal, primitive instinct of, I want it. How do I get that? Before they feel the more, before they feel the more complex emotions, such as guilt and morals and being the bigger person and all that other stuff. Dogs don't think that way. They're stuck in that primitive little lizard brain, which is okay. Even with that lizard brain, they're still smarter than a lot of humans I know.
To go through that light. If the only incentive is payment, you will reach a point where you've had enough and there's something more valuable to you than that payment.
And that is absolutely possible, and very probable, that happens. That's where the skill and training and education comes in. Is that you're not just stuck in the past of, it's always been done this one way, cookie cutter way. Every dog is the same. You have to learn to adapt, just like dogs do. So if you have a dog, as I've worked with, where I have a treat and dogs don't, in his words, blow off the treat because there's something more interesting, then I have to increase distance from what they find interesting in the environment or distracting in the environment so that I can become more interesting. Or we go back in training, we slow down, and we practice more. We practice more of a bond. We practice less distractions. We prepare them and work them out so they can focus on me, even in the most distracting, fun place ever, where you can have your dog in a room full of their favorite toys and treats all around them on the floor. You can have them walk through it. That's real training. That's when you put your dog to the test and you don't ever have to correct them. You can still do that and not correct them. It just takes more time and a better bond and, again, skill and knowledge. So just because you can't do it doesn't mean that it can't be done.
That is one problem with purely positive training.
It's not called purely positive. It's simply positive reinforcement training or force-free. And that is a problem that you see with it because you have not continued your education. You have not continued to grow with science and proof. And I imagine, I don't know how many years he's been training. It seems like he has 1 year of experience. We'll say 20 times. Give him the benefit of the doubt. 20 times. Say he's been doing it for 20 years. I don't know. 1 year of experience done over and over and over and over and over again. There's no growth. I've been doing this. I've been training my Shiba for the last 11 and a half years. And I can say for myself, I have 11 years of experience one time. Because I have been through it all. I used to use a prong collar and a choke chain on my Shiba. And because I thought that's what I needed to do, I followed trainers like him who were uneducated and didn't know anything. And I didn't know anything, and it doesn't matter. It doesn't make it okay. I still, as the human, have to take accountability for the mistakes I made because my dog had to pay. It doesn't mean I have to hate myself the rest of my life. As long as I change and I work to benefit my dog, then you can move on. The way this guy's talking, it sounds like he has 1 year of experience X number of times. He hasn't learned. He hasn't moved on. I didn't even get into all this, watching other trainers and stuff until I was, until recently. I learned on my own because I chose to learn and grow. And that's why my dog is as good as he is. And that's why even more so, that's why I am as good as I am, because my Shiba taught me. He taught me the hard way, but I appreciate it. I love the heck out of him. And that is why I give all my credit to my Shiba. He is my legend. He is the legend of my business. He is why I'm a dog trainer. Because when the going got tough and I was confused and I went to, a trainer that taught with this nonsense, and then I went to a PetSmart trainer with positive reinforcement, and she was actually really good. And she taught me, you don't need to do this. And I went to school for it and all that, blah, blah, blah. I mean, you've probably heard the story a million times, but... So I've learned that on my own. Nobody had to tell me. I mean, my dog told me, and I listened. I don't think he listens to dogs.
I actually had this topic in mind quite a while ago.
I imagine you did.
And it just so happens that the current climate of dog training, you're seeing a lot of training tools get banned in various countries, remote collars.
Celebration! And now it's I think they said in South Africa recently that it is punishable by law. Like he's talking about the red light. You use the tools he uses, prong collars or electric collars, that is punishable by law. You can be fined or have jail time.
Prong collars, even crates in some places.
Yeah, because a lot of places, it is overused. It is overused and abused, and people lock their dogs in there for 8+ hours a day. Get in there, shut up. As Jeff Gelman says, and I'm doing a video on him in probably the next couple of videos, hit the shut up button. When there's a dog in a crate and they're freaking out and panicking, hit the continuous button on their shock collar, their electric collar, and you hold it until the dog lays down and shuts up. I'm not saying everybody, you can certainly teach your dog to accept a crate in a comfortable way. I'm not saying all crates are abusive. I don't use them, but I can certainly train a dog to accept one and be comfortable in it.
So I didn't really mean for the timing to line up like this, but it
I'm sure he was pretty happy about it, though.
And before I move on, I want to throw one more thing at you guys, because you're going to hear
one more anecdotal example that makes no sense, such as red lights and green lights. You might as well be talking about dogs driving the cars. I mean, if you want to, you could check it out. Look up his video, and you can go back in the first, 8 minutes that he's talking about this just ludicrous story and example that he gives, which makes no sense because he's comparing a human's logical thought and in fantasy land, because apparently if you run those red lights, there's no threat of you dying or killing somebody else or anything else like that.
Stuff out there that goes science-based dog training.
Right.
Science. It's science.
Oh, boo-hoo, because I have experience. I've done this for 50 years. And I know everything more than someone who has done science or done research or people who actually have PhDs in animal behavior. No, I know more than them because I get results. Nobody is telling you that you don't get results. We're saying that it's not necessary how you get those results. We're asking why and how you get those results, and is it necessary? Science is not saying that you do not get results with prong collars, choke collars, slip bleeds, shock collars, smacking a dog, bonking them. Science does not say you don't get results with that. Science started with that. The last 50, 40, 60 years ago. Learned helplessness. A dog was in a box and they shocked it. They put up a light. The dog saw the light. They would get shocked. They would jump to the other side of the box. Light went on again. They got shocked. Jumped to the other side of the box. Light went on. They jumped to the other side of the box and they didn't get shocked. And then they put the light on, saying they're going to get shocked, and the dog still got shocked. No matter which side, it's confusing. You could look it up, but B.F. Skinner and all that. No matter which side the dog went on, it still got shocked, whether the light went on or didn't. So then the dog learns to, develop learned helplessness. Like, you really need that kind of experiment just to learn helplessness. But, we've moved on since then. Obviously we don't quite do that, but...
Get me wrong. I love science, and in fact, I am extremely well-versed in different learning theories. I'm very well-versed.
I feel like he's very well-versed in his beliefs and what backs his personal bias. I mean, I can say that I'm biased too. Yeah, I'm biased because I like to do what's humane, not just what's more effective. As people will say, yeah, positive reinforcement is more effective, and it is, and it happens to be more humane. I don't care if it takes 10 times the amount of time. As long as it's more humane, that's what I care about. That's what force free is about. Is you shouldn't have to force an animal to do some stupid human concept because we have an ego and opposable thumbs.
In classical conditioning and operant conditioning.
Of course you are, because everybody who does this is. We're not questioning your ability to have a well-timed correction. The point is that you don't need to rely on all 4 quadrants, which is positive reinforcement, positive punishment, negative punishment.
And I've read studies and I've done my due diligence, and
Have
in
you?
fact, they're topics that I revisit every year, even though I already know the stuff.
Well, you know it, but it is constantly changing. That's the whole point, is he comes at it with this point of view of, I already know everything. So let's see if you can change my mind. Like Zach said, which I stand by him. Go for it, Zach. Like he does it much nicer than I do. I don't care. I'm certainly not going to make any friends doing this, but I say it like it is. But Zach is out here saying, look, all these people come to me to make me give them the example of why positive reinforcement works over whatever. And it's up to the people who support the theory to give the example of why positive doesn't work. And they have yet to give an example, a proper example, that's not just an anecdote, made up story about green lights, red lights, getting $100 bills, or dogs having, the mindset of Einstein, being able to have super logical, in-depth discussions in their own mind. It's up to you to have an actual logical reason as to why positive doesn't work. Nobody ever said that negative reinforcement and positive punishment doesn't work, which are the 2 that I don't use. Nobody said that aversive techniques don't work. So clean out your ears, put your listening ears on, as Judge Judy would always say. We're not saying that your methods don't work. We are saying they're unnecessary. And in my opinion, inhumane.
Periodically revisit it to see how my last year or 2 of experience could potentially change any of my perceptions or opinions.
But it's all the same. You're in Groundhog Day. Your previous 2 years are the same as they've been for the last 20 years. And that's the problem, is that you can see these things and you still have that mindset of, nope, it was the same, it didn't change, because you haven't tried not using aversives. You haven't tried only working force-free. Then you can actually have, if you did that and worked for a full year, actively not using punishment, you would be forced to adapt and learn. If you didn't have the ability to use punishment, you would have to learn different timing and skills, and then you would be a better trainer for it. But because you don't have to, then you're not going to. But the dogs have to.
Trust me, I'm by no means a trainer that has one opinion. That's what I believe, and
I personally disagree with that because of how slap happy he was to shit on purely positive dog trainers. I disagree with that.
Trust me,
because again, I don't even have to say this to him. I'm not talking to trainers. I'm talking to people who, want to, regular owners who are awesome with their dogs, and they want to, hear what I think about this. I'm saying bozo. They didn't call him bozo. That's what I'm calling him. They wanted to see what I had to say about him, and I've never known him before, and I don't wish to see any more of his videos. But it's just this ego. This whole thing about ego that, I have an ego because I'm trying to protect dogs. If I have an ego, it's about I'm trying to give dogs a voice because they're the ones that are losing here. Between the 2 wars, the dog is the one that loses. And we can say anything. Anything. You could say this dog is sad, this dog is depressed, this dog is angry, this dog is happy. And because the majority of people don't know or don't want to see, then people will believe it. They're none so blind as those who refuse to see. And in the land of the blind, the man with one eye is king.
I'm very open.
I don't think you are. I don't think you are. I used to be open. I'll be honest now. I used to be open-minded, trying to hear people out. I'm over it now. I don't care. You can call me closed-minded. Look, I'm not in it to talk to other trainers like him. And I'm not in it to have an echo chamber either. And even if I am, then who cares? What do you care? I mean, this is just a full-on rant. I don't know how long I've been recording, but probably too long. So I'm just gonna. I think I've said enough. I'll just skip through here to see one question he may or may not answer. So thank you, Wet Sand, my good old subscriber. Love you dearly. Love your puppers. Hope y'all are doing well. We're going to scrub through this to see maybe just randomly one question he asks or answers or something else he says to make it a little bit more enjoyable for everybody. I am no longer going to try to convince people who are dedicated to misunderstanding me. So I'm done talking to trainers like this. Like, I'm not talking to people. I'm not trying to change their mind. Anybody who has an open mind, who is an owner or trying to become a trainer or anything like that, even a groomer, Petco salesperson, whatever, anybody out there who wants to have an open mind, I'm more than happy to have a civil conversation with you. Of course, I say this behind a screen and, do this bozo, and I would never, this is not professional. I understand that. I'm not necessarily trying to be professional. This is like my rant. But, if somebody actually has an open mind and questions, I have all the time in the world to give you my point of view, the dog's point of view, what information I have, and then you can do with that what you want. You do not have to listen to me. I will never tell anybody or try to ever come across as if I'm right. I'm, trying to clear up some misinformation and straight up lies that a lot of people like this will tell you from my own experience. I never say I'm purely positive. I know I can't train purely positive because there are life circumstances. So let's just see what he says here.
You have a standalone house, neighbors far away, you got a nice temperature-controlled attached garage. You can put the puppy in there. They can cry their heart out.
Oh, God.
You're in the other side of the house. You don't hear anything. That's a big advantage for you.
Oh, God,
So
no.
You're at a big disadvantage environmentally. But here's what...
I don't know where the rest of that was, but I do not agree with... I don't think that that's a good way to train a puppy. It's just like, now, does it work? Sure. I'm not questioning if it works. I'm saying that it's not necessary. Just like you don't necessarily have to let your child, your baby, cry it out either. You don't have to let them cry it out. You can, but there's other options. Because I know a lot of people, every parent out there tries their best, but it's just like every pet owner tries their best. I tried my best with Adonis, but it doesn't mean that it was the best. And he doesn't care what my intentions were. He cares what I do. So I don't want to do that for a child, my own personal opinion. I don't want to do that for my possible future child and just say, I tried my best. Because you know what? In the moment, they don't care. So I don't know how I got on that. I guess we were talking about a puppy in a garage, but long story short, you don't have to let them cry it out. I don't think that's a good idea. It's easy, but then why do you have a puppy if you just want to lock them in a garage and let them cry it out? They have emotional states. They have needs and all that good stuff. So I'm just going to end this here because I've been talking the last 2 hours and I probably only, cut up to make 20 minutes worth of it. Hope you enjoy. I hope, I'm pretty sure Wet Sand will answer your questions about what I think about this guy and what he has to say. But love all you subscribers. I do appreciate so much that you guys leave me such kind words and great suggestions, and just know that you are so appreciated so much. So thank you. I hope you all have a wonderful day or night or weekend or holiday, whenever you are seeing this. And don't be a grump like me. Try to be more positive. And don't worry, I only reserve this kind of energy for, trainers that have an ego that, needs to be put in check. So, Anybody with questions, of course, feel free to reach out, and I promise not to bite your head off. I have all the patience in the world for people who mean well and are just trying to help their puppers. So thank you so much. Hope you enjoyed it. Until next time, stay positive.